Hello, everybody. You have reached tea time yet again. It's Monday. Oh, so many things that go wrong on a Monday, but this is one of the good things that happens on Mondays. So we're glad you're all here. Julie is with the grandbabies again, and so I get to run the show, and I sent out a plea, and these are the three reps who answered my call. So let's
We're
get right
happy to
to
be
it.
here.
Say again.
We're happy to be here.
Yay. Let's do it. I want to hear all about books. I never get sick of this. So it'll go Liz, Julia, and Tom.
Okay. Oh, share.
Should be on here.
Yep, it's there. The share is there. My rhymes are here. Um,
Feel like the share is there is going to be a RuPaul Rusical some season.
okay, so this, which you should be seeing, is Sons and Daughters by Chaim Grod. I may be mispronouncing the last name. He passed away in 1982, and Knopf has had the rights to an English translation of this Yiddish classic for 40 years. So this is one of those publishing events. And it's getting a lot of praise and a lot of attention. New York Times feature. My publicity memo was long with all of the articles and reviews that are happening for this. So, Eli Wiesel said of Chaim that he's one of the great Yiddish novelists of our lifetime. This is a 700-page epic. Think Fiddler on the Roof with Tolstoy. The cast of characters in the front of the book is 4 pages long, funny, about food. It's just such a rich story. And when I went to sell it to bookstores, some of my booksellers who've been in the business for a long time were like, wow, finally. So I want to tell you just a little bit about the story, 700 pages. I can't do it full justice, but here we meet Rabbi Sholem Shachni Katzenellenbogen enter his world of his forefathers. His world is crumbling before his eyes, and in his own home. His eldest is off in Bialystok studying to be a businessman. His daughter, Bluma, is in Vilna at nursing school, and her older sister, Tilza, has at least managed to find a suitable young rabbi. But he can tell things are off between them. So all of this happens in this really philosophical tale. We go to Switzerland. We meet all of these wonderful characters. And then, one of them wants to run off to the Holy Land with the Zionists. Here are a few lines that will give you a taste of the prose. It is me the prophet laments when he cries out, my enemies are the people in my own home. The rabbi ignored his borscht and instead chewed on a crust of bread dipped in salt. My greatest enemies are my own family. So in the review, Dwight Garner says that Sons and Daughters is also a great food novel, which I mentioned, not just borscht, a melancholy book that also happens to be hopelessly, miraculously, unremittingly funny. Fretful characters vibrate as if they were drawn by Roz Chast. So there's a leap in time. And Rose Waldman's translation seems miraculous to me. So that is Sons and Daughters. I have a feeling that the story won't feel like 700 pages once you fall in love with the characters. And it's very much this glimpse into Yiddish culture that's really been lost, the culture of Poland and Lithuania that the Holocaust moved to eradicate. And the author lost his first wife and mother in the Holocaust. And then he moved to New York in 1948 and lived out the rest of his life in the Bronx. And there's his picture on the slide, and it just is a very, as I said, rich and a return to a culture that time wants us to forget. So, Sons and Daughters, Warwick's has a couple of copies. I looked and checked.
Trying to figure out her art on the front. Is someone about to have their
I
blood
know,
let?
blood pressure taken.
Oh, is that what's going on?
I don't know. It can't be that. That's like a current medical device, but that's a good question. I don't have a copy of the book to look inside to see what the art's like, but I'll take it off so we don't have to be troubled by it anymore.
That's great. That little snippet you read is just perfect. Ignoring his borscht, eating a crust of bread with salt because the enemy's in my home. So very reminiscent of many holidays in my own home.
Mhm.
I mean, I love you, family. I love you all. Okay, Julia, your turn.
I feel you, dude. Okay, my first one is a favorite of mine of this season. It's called Cellar Rat: My Life in the Restaurant Underbelly by Hannah Sellinger. And Hannah sort of came onto the scene uh, after she wrote an article in, I believe, Lucky Peach, talking about working for David Chang at Momofuku and how um, awful it was, to be quite honest. This book, I used to work in restaurants and worked in food service for much of my young life, and so as soon as I got a galley of this one, I had to plunge into it because I love a restaurant memoir, and I absolutely loved this book. It did remind me slightly of Kitchen Confidential insofar as that she is a stellar writer. So just brings you in with her. You know, I think what I really enjoyed about this book was her talking about um just like the different types of food service because she sort of runs the gamut in this memoir. And while of course the stories of chefs acting like tyrants and being totally wild is always kind of fun to read about. It's less fun to live through, but very fun to read about. This book really does like get into the pun intended meat and potatoes of the the restaurant industry and sort of how it differs. So she starts off working at this kind of like chowder bar in Massachusetts. You know, it's got craft beer on tap. It's, you know, people are eating seafood. And then she ends up moving back to New York and starts working in fine dining and sort of lies on her resume that she knows how to work in fine dining and gets a crash course pretty quickly in how different fine dining is than you know, working at a bar in coastal Massachusetts. And so um, it's I really liked that partially because I think people don't understand sort of the skill it takes for both jobs, and she really highlights that. But you know, it also is a really fun sort of ride through what working in a restaurant looks like. I absolutely loved a book, Cellar Rat. It was really very fun. So that's mine.
Cool. Secret theme so far, food writing.
We're all
Maybe
hungry.
Tom will follow suit. I'm curious, Julia, just do you have like what are some of your favorite food writing books? Just top of your
I mean, Kitchen Confidential is the
yeah,
obvious one. It
yeah.
is, I mean, it
It's
sort of is the
amazing.
best.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. There's not really
yeah.
anything I can tell you that's, I love, I love, oh God, what's it called? Heat by Bill Burford.
Yeah. Bill
Uh,
Buford.
Buford, thank you. That's a
Yeah.
great book. Um, I feel like, oh gosh, I'm gonna forget, but those are some that I really like. I like a restaurant book, and I like a book. I mean, I love not Julie and Julia, but there's another. Oh, I'm just gonna lose
Sorry.
it.
Sorry to put you
Anyway,
on the spot.
yeah, no, it's okay. And my brain, like at the end of a Monday, is not really functioning all that well. But yeah, I think food writing and cooking writing, I mean, it's hard to beat Kitchen Confidential. You
Yeah,
know, that's just the long and short of it.
for sure.
Well, Ruth
Thank you.
Reichl, Tender at the Bone. Ruth Reichl, Tender at the Bone.
Ah, yes.
Yeah,
Good
sorry.
one.
Yeah.
All right, Tom.
All right. Although
No, no
the
food.
author of this book, it likes good food. I can tell you that for sure. Very different kind of book. Graydon Carter's When the Going Was Good. An editor's adventures during the last golden age of magazines. So I love books, but I have always loved magazines. And this is from and Graydon Carter. For the if you don't know, so he's Canadian. So like weirdly, like there's a book this that's out right now about Lorne Michaels at Saturday Night Live, also Canadian. Graydon Carter, from the same vintage, same age as Lorne Michaels. Also, there he's also Canadian. He came to New York and worked at Time Inc. Time Inc. Back in those days was Time Magazine and Life Magazine were I don't it's kind of, when you read this book you realize that these media companies were like Google and Facebook were in their early days where money was just being minted at Time Inc. And then Graydon Carter he started with Kurt Anderson's Spy magazine, which was a very influential, mocked New York. Most famously Donald Trump back in the 80s, but it's sort of like was his version of what I guess an SNL version of a magazine. Like they were mocking all the sacred cows at the time, and then he gets brought into one of the real sacred cows, which is Vanity Fair magazine, which Cy Newhouse, who owned Random House, and Condé Nast, which owns the New Yorker. Cy Newhouse. Sorry to get so deep into this. I love it so much. I love all these things. Cy Newhouse was like the center of he was a billionaire, I guess, but he was the center of culture because he owned Condé Nast, which is the New Yorker, Vogue, Vanity Fair. He also owned Random House, which was Knopf, just the Random House piece at that time. So he was like, he truly was like own the culture in many ways. And so anyway, he brought Graydon Carter into Vanity Fair sort of in its early days. Tina Brown left for the New Yorker. Cy Newhouse moved her from Vanity Fair to the New Yorker, which was great, both of these things caused great distress in the magazine world because how could you bring Tina Brown from Vanity Fair to the sacred New Yorker? And how could you bring the editor of Spy magazine, which is making fun of all these rich people, to Vanity Fair? But it was a brilliant stroke because Graydon Carter was there for 25 years and saw Vanity Fair become what it is. Well, not what it is today. It's not that anymore because magazines aren't that anymore. But for 25 years, he came to Hollywood and started the Vanity Fair Oscars party, which became the, golden ticket at the Oscars. He's just a great storyteller. And so Ann Godoff, who is the editor at Penguin Press, one of the great publishing people, has been friends with him for all that time, probably. And he's been telling her these stories over the years of his own life and his own adventures in magazine publishing, but also with celebrities. And so he's just a great storyteller. It's like you're at having a great meal with a great storyteller and he's just unloading on you these amazing stories that feature Hollywood stars and writers and all kinds of different people that he interacted with over the years. It's fantastic fun if you're looking for this sort of thing, which I always am. Um, but to give you an idea of the different world that was, Brian Burrow, who we still publish, Brian Burrow's a great writer. He wrote back in the day. He wrote Barbarians at the Gate, but Penguin Press publishes him today. But he was a major Vanity Fair writer. He reviewed this book very favorably, but he did reveal like what it was like. He said, for 25 years, I was contracted to produce 3 articles a year, long ones, typically 10,000 words. For this, my peak salary was $498,000. That's not a
What?
misprint. $498,000 or more than $166,000 per story. He says, then as now, 166,000 was a good advance for an entire book. Yes, I realized this was obscene. I took it with a grin. but it just shows you that magazines, what that was a different, we're different than book publishing, different than anything else. And of course, it wasn't going to last forever, but my God. Um, yeah, so those were, so when the going was good, that's not hyperbole. The going was really good back in the day. So Graydon Carter's When the Going Was Good.
Where did
Nice.
they get all that money?
Yeah.
Subscribers? What? Advertisers,
Advertisers, remember, do
obviously.
you remember Vanity Fair was like this thick
Yes.
in its day? And then you'd have a lot of content, but there were a lot of ads.
Yeah. The
Uh,
perfumes.
it wasn't subscribers.
Oh, no, it wasn't. But I still subscribe to the physical Vanity Fair.
Right. You do?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm impressed.
And
Yeah.
Vogue.
So you love
I,
magazines
I
just as much
love
as I do.
magazines. Just
Yeah.
ask my office.
I feel
There's
like I was
nothing.
born in the wrong century.
Yes, I think that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, where do I file a petition?
Wow.
Looks so good. And
Wow.
Tom, Vanity Fair, you've also have on your backlist these little like individual Vanity Fair like interview, right? Don't you have some
Yeah,
on this
there's
book?
Like Vanity Fair's Hollywood, and
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Those are
yeah.
fun.
I
Uh,
used to, when I was at Book Soup, I used to have to drive cases of Graydon Carter's books to the Beverly Hills Hotel for him to sign whenever he was in town.
of course.
I would have to drop them at the Polo Lounge.
Oh my God.
Wow.
That's of course you did. I'm not surprised. Yeah,
It
I
Oh,
was
mean
worth it. We
Julian.
sold them.
he's
Yeah.
from a different world, and I find it just just fascinating, glimpse at that time in that world, and he doesn't. It's very he's mostly not settling scores except with Tina Brown and Anna Wintour.
Mm.
Just kind of, it's almost like gently, but knives are out. Yeah.
Just a few small names to settle scores with.
Yeah, I know.
Sounds good.
Thank you. That adds
Okay.
a whole new dimension to how lavish it feels to buy magazines already.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
All right.
does. This is also a little window into, I don't know, decadence. Sister Europe. I don't know if you've any of your watchers or you have heard of Nell Zink, but she's a new writer to me. And this is, she lives in Berlin. This is her newest novel. I think it's her third novel. And her reviewers just praise her writing up and down as witty, rambunctious, but also tender, eloquent, sophisticated. This, again, this book has a cast of characters that, I'm watching White Lotus. I'm loving it, of course. And there's something about this that reminds me of that. Just this gathering of people. Um, this is set during one wild night in Berlin at the Hotel Interconti. I also love when novels are set in these specific places, be it an insane asylum or a hotel. This is a hotel, and we meet the main character sort of behind the scenes, Nema. She's an elderly princess dedicated to her pet causes, but she's in this bind because she is struck by a malady. She's marooned in Montreux, unable to host this exclusive gala that she's supposed to be hosting, this dinner in Berlin to honor an author, the author Masoud Al-Huzel. This is fiction. For his lifetime achievement in Arabic literature. Not only is she unable to attend, but she's in a desperate situation because the RSVPs are really few. She ends up having to beg the guest of honor to invite his own friends to this. So in come the guests that he invites. We've got his old friend Demian, who's a native Berliner. Demian invites his two best friends, a troubled, innocent young woman, Livia, an American publisher, Toto, they will do anything for a free meal. It says Toto brings his younger internet date, who's nicknamed the Flake because she stood him up so many times, and also a 15-year-old daughter of one of the other characters. And then there's a cop who's trailing this 15-year-old since she left the red light district. I mean, this is really this sort of seedy situation. Um, so at the party, presiding over the whole affair, is Nema's infinitely rich, endlessly disaffected grandson, Prince Roddy, who makes a pass at Nicole. This culminates in this epic midnight food run, back to food run that changes all their lives. Full Berlin escapades. It's super fun, but it definitely skewers echelons of Berlin society. It's a short, pithy read at 208 pages, and just a great way to be introduced to Nell Zink's writing. So, Sister Europe. I love the picture of the cover
I'd
too.
never heard of Nell Zink before, but then read the by the book interview with her in the Sunday paper, and it was really entertaining. So
Yeah,
I'm glad you
she's,
talked about this.
yeah, I think
Thank
it's
you.
really going to be fun.
Cool. More lavish reads. More lavish reads.
Really.
Do you have
Okay.
something lavish? Let's see.
I don't.
That's
I have uh Amanda Knox's new book, Free,
yeah.
Search for Meaning. This comes out tomorrow. So, I think a lot of people remembered the sort of the story of Amanda Knox, and she was um doing a year abroad in Italy, and she was incorrectly charged with murdering her roommate, even though it was very clear that she had not, if you looked at any DNA evidence. And, there was, sorry, I'm trying to get this to come up. Okay. So, and then there was, she was released, she was sent back to the US, and then tried in absentia in Italy. I mean, she wrote a memoir about that experience, and you can also like look into sort of um all of that. Just like a side note, that prosecutor that prosecuted her also tried to prosecute Douglas Preston as the serial killer, the monster of Florence. He's kind of a wild man, and probably shouldn't be a prosecutor, but you didn't hear me say that.
Wow.
Anyway, that has nothing to do with, well, it has only, the only thing that it has to do with this book is that this is sort of in a way a follow-up to her previous memoir. Her previous memoir came out in 2013, and it was really about what had happened to her. And this one, I think, it's funny, when we first got this manuscript, I was kind of like, what more do we need to hear from Amanda Knox? And I mean, live your life and be free, but I don't know why we're hearing more from her. But then I read this and I was like, actually, this is a great book. And it's really a great book about, you know, that I think might help people, regular everyday people, because really what it's about is like, after some major life event happens that changes everything about your life, how do you move forward? And how do you move forward when the people around you, the people you run into, already know things about you? And, I think, maybe not all of us have the experience of having been wrongly convicted of murder, but we all have an experience where sort of something in our life changed significantly, and we sort of had to deal with the fallout within our lives. And that's really what she's addressing here. And I think she does a great job of addressing it. I think it's a really thoughtful book. I think it's a book. One of the things that I think is really interesting is that she's also working on a documentary to go along with this that's executive produced by Monica Lewinsky. So just to sort of put into perspective the kind of narrative we're talking about, of like, these are people and women particularly that were judged by society in certain ways, and then they have to continue living life. They have to go have a job, and they have to like make money, and they have to go grocery shopping, and they have to do all that. And how do you do all that when sort of everyone in the world thinks that something about you, whatever it is? I but like I said, I like the way it sort of it sort of connects her also to regular everyday people. So basically saying this is like a macro sort of version of something that everyone experiences. It's really well done. It's really well written. I really enjoyed it, and you'll probably see quite a bit of her in the next week or two. But yeah, Free by Amanda Knox. It's I highly recommend it.
Awesome. Maybe good for fans of Salman Rushdie's new book, Knife.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's similar, right? As it's like thinking about, particularly for people in the public eye, and I think with social media that changes what how we think, like who's in the public eye, and how we think about that. People who maybe would never be sort of in the public eye now become so pretty quickly. And I think like there's a lot to learn from it, but there's also a lot of grace that she gives both herself and other people, that I really appreciated in that book.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, Tom.
Okay, so my next book is from the winner of the Nobel Prize for Literature, Abdul Razak Gurnah's Theft. Just out, I think it was out last week. Um, and it is the first book we've published. He won the Nobel Prize in 2021. We published Afterlives sort of simultaneously with that. So this is the first book that he's written since winning the Nobel Prize. And it's pretty fun a, to be able to sell a new book by a Nobel Prize winner. That is not something that happens very often. And so he's telling the story, and also what sets this book apart, it's a much more like his previous books have been historical. So they've looked at Europe, especially Europe's relationship to Africa, colonialism, telling the story of the wars that led to the state of Africa right now. And this book is much more, it's set in the early 2000s, so it's much more contemporary. It's much more intimate also. It's set in Tanzania, and there's two young people who've just graduated from college. They're just starting their lives, and they take into their house a younger person, and it's about the relationship between these three characters and how their fates are intertwined and how they diverge and how it connects to a kind of a new society coming to terms with always colonialism and the aftermath of that, but also technology, all the things that have continued to change Africa. And he's a Nobel Prize winner that is not difficult to read. Like sometimes Nobel Prize winners I find can generally be daunting tasks. Not so much with him. This has a real Dickensian feel about it. He's telling the story of young people. He's just a master storyteller, and that's what the Guardian review said. The reviewer said, a quietly powerful demonstration of storytelling mastery, at once a coming-of-age chamber piece and a wide-angled post-colonial panorama, pegged to the inner lives of its central trio. Meanwhile, sketched between the lines is a family heartache spread over several generations, all narrated in a Quicksilver style that gives you the pleasurable sense that you're putty in the hands of a warm yet clear-eyed authorial intelligence. So, highly recommend Theft. And we've been quietly publishing all of his books with the same art, and I love this artist.
Me too. I love the putty in the hands
Yes.
imagery. That's
Yes.
pretty good. All right, lightning round. We don't have to go too quickly, if you don't want to, unless you're Gabe, but Gabe's not here.
I could talk more about Graydon Carter and Vanity Fair.
Right. So I will, my turn, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I won't be hyper about it, but this is, oh my gosh, I don't know if I usually am presenting pretty literary, serious but fun books. Anyway, very seldom do I have a cocktail book. I've never presented a cocktail book before. And this is so wonderful. That's just an interior picture because it's full of these sort of vintage Art Deco illustrations. This is by written by Fred Meyer. Over 300 recipes. He was a bartender at the Paris Ritz from 1921 until his death in 1947. So he has all of these. I guess he's famous for saying his motto was to be a barman is to be a chemist and a psychologist. So he, of course, served the likes of Ernest Hemingway and F. Scott Fitzgerald and even Franklin Delano Roosevelt's favorite martini. This is a book not just of recipes for all of these wonderful, I mean, the sections are, toddies, eggnog, slings, fizzes, coolers. So it's totally delectable. You'll want to make some of these things. Some of the names of the cocktails are Bee's Knees and the CP Fizz, and it's just fun to say. But there are also sandwiches in here. And so it's, yes, all these recipes, mainly cocktails, but then interspersed is this wit and wisdom. He originally self-published it just for his friends and people who asked him for it in 1936, if I didn't already say that. But it's just, yeah, it's like the wit and wisdom of a bartender at the Ritz in Paris. I mean, he even has anecdotes about how to help with a snake bite and horse racing tips. And I mean, it's such a fun book. So, great gift. No, we're not publishing it for New Year's Eve because it could be a gift year round. And yeah, if you were to see all the interior pages, they're a lot like this and super fun, but these are still in French. So I got these sample pages before the translation, but it's available now, and I believe that there are some at Warwick's or on order. So enjoy.
That will be a long-limbed, long-lived book at Warwick's, I'm sure, at the counter.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, beautiful. And it's just, it's a little guy?
It's not little, but it's not your regular hardcover trim size.
Uh-huh.
So and it's really beautiful. When I first saw the cover, I was like, it reminded me of those inexpensive Dover editions,
Oh,
which
yeah,
I've
yeah.
seen so many of, but it's really it's luscious and you know, heavily illustrated.
Cool. Cool. Yeah, La
Um,
Jollans do like their cocktail hour.
There will be
Sorry,
things to
Julia.
experiment with in here. Definitely drinks I'd never heard of.
Oh, fun.
okay, so I'm doing a one that's a week early, but my next week is so jam-packed that it's going to spill out. April 1 pubs are going to spill out both weeks around it. So this next book, it comes out next Tuesday. This is called Rabbit Moon by Jennifer Hay. She wrote Mercy Street was probably her biggest, but she's been writing books for a long, long time. When I was at Winter Institute with her, she was signing and like her line did not stop once. I think she had one break to sip her wine for like about 30 seconds and someone else came. So she's an author that if you haven't read yet, I will highly recommend. I hadn't read her before coming to Hachette, but I read this book, Rabbit Moon, and oh my God, it's stunning. This book is really all about how the sort of story unfolds. So it starts off with these two parents who get a call. They're divorced, but they get a call that their daughter, who was supposed to be studying abroad on mainland China, has been found in Shanghai and is now in the ICU in a coma. And they end up having to fly to Shanghai to figure out what happened and to, make medical decisions for their daughter. And through the narrative, you sort of find how she ended up in this position, what she was doing, not on mainland China in her program as she was supposed to be. And sort of as the story unfolds, more and more information sort of spills out in this very like there's like a trickle of information that sort of comes out about this young woman and what she was doing and why she was where she was. It's phenomenally well done. It is family drama of the highest order. And you know, she has a little sister who is just starting college in the United States. And so figuring out, you know, when the parents figure out when they're going to tell the little sister what's going on. And, you know, the little sister maybe has some information that the parents don't about where her sister was and what she was doing and things like that. So it's one of those, you know, sort of great family books, but also a book where the sort of journey is the story, the journey of how you understand how this girl came to be where she starts off at. It comes out next week. I can't recommend it highly enough. Truly a wonderful, wonderful book.
Wow. Yeah, I couldn't quite put together her name with books, but then I started looking at her other titles, and all of them have been favorites at Warwick's. Mrs. Kimball, The Condition, Mercy Street recently. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, Heart and Light, yeah, Faith. So
Mhm.
a lot of books that have done really well for people. And she's been at sort of all over Harper, William Morrow,
I thought so. Right.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
Echo for a while, FSG, or no, not FSG, sorry, but Echo for a while, and then yeah, now at Hachette.
Baker Towers too. I think that was one that was big with some of our book clubs.
Oh, cool.
Cool.
Yeah, this is a great book club book. I think a big discussion piece on sort of because every character sort of behaves both in a way that's understandable and also not well. so so it is sort of fun to dissect and look at these characters. It's a very character driven piece. So it's good.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Bring
All
us on
right.
home, Tom.
I will. So about 10 years ago, maybe 12 years ago, Viking published one of my favorite books that people don't remember. It's called Everything Matters by Ron Curry. And it was a great book. I need to read, I don't reread books very often, but that's one I want to go back to and reread. I dearly love that book. Then Ron Curry did maybe one more book for us, and then he disappeared from my radar at least. He started writing for television, I think, and doing the things writers do in these days when there's no more $500,000 magazine advances. But the good news is he's back with Putnam with a brand new book, and it's called The Savage Noble Death of Babs Dion, which has this fantastic cover, and it's a dark, twisted, thrilling masterpiece. It is so good. If you like your thrillers as dark as can be. So all of Ron's books are set in Maine. So that's one of the many things I love about him is that I think he'll always be writing about Maine. So I'm learning whatever I know about Maine. I'm learning from Richard Russo, a different kind of Maine. So this takes us to Waterville, Maine, and not any kind of tourist town, part of town. Babs Dion this is Little Canada. So there's a French speaking, small enclave here that Babs Dion rules with an iron fist. She is a crime matriarch. She is the all the drugs that run through Waterville, Maine, she controls. And she has her gang, like her childhood friends. These women, they've grown up together and they control what they control. But suddenly things are out of her control. Her daughter, she has two daughters. One of them is missing, and the other one is a Marine vet and comes back addicted to drugs and also, PTSD. So there is a lot going on. I think the book takes place basically in 24 hours or close to it when the one daughter goes missing. At the same time, there is a even bigger drug kingpin in Canada who realizes that their profits, they're not making the profits they should be, and it's because of what's happening, what Babs Dion is controlling. So they send, they call him the man to investigate. So slowly but surely, things are coming together in this really dark way. And it's called The Savage Noble Death of Babs Dion. So we know where we're headed. But she is a character you will not forget. None of these characters will you ever forget. It's a so it's a crime novel, but like the best crime novels, it's about a place, and really you really get a sense of what it's like to live in this place with these characters, a world I knew nothing about. And there are moments, so it's thrilling, it's exciting, but also there are moments of just transcendent writing that I'm reminded again of how much I love Ron Curry's writing. Cannot recommend this enough. If you like your thrillers dark and memorable, like Dennis Lehane, um, that kind of thing. And I think we're going to get three of them. I think there's going to be more to come set in this world with these characters. The Savage Noble Death of Babs Dion. So
Cool.
happy to have Ron Curry back writing books.
I love the cover. Is there really a crow in it? I sure hope
Yeah.
so.
Yes, 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 yes. And many cigarettes, many cigarettes. But I think if people have discovered S.A. Cosby, I think if you like S.A. Cosby, this would be a book in that same general area. It's really good.
Excellent. Thanks, everybody. Another great, great group of books. And oh, this is a tough one, but maybe Julia, do you know of any good gluten-free cookbooks? Darcy's looking, or maybe you could think on it and come back next time you're here. That's a tough one, and more people are trying to go gluten-free. Um,
Yeah, we have a gluten-free bread book that's coming in. I feel like it's coming in the fall. Sorry, my brain is.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
writing
like
fall markups right now, so my brain doesn't know what season it is. But
maybe
off the
maybe
top of my head, I can't think of it. I
yeah,
know we
maybe
have
next
one
time you're
coming,
here.
but I'll think on it. Yeah, no
Cool,
problem.
yeah. I'd be interested in that as well.
Yeah.
Cool. If anyone's interested in an event tonight who's in town, Susan Meisner is going to be at the
Mm.
store. Local favorite, Susan Meisner. And also looking forward to the San Diego book crawl. People are getting really excited. It's the last weekend of April. Dave Eggers is going to visit our store in honor of it. He's our ambassador, and it's going to be rad. So, if you're local, we hope to see you over that weekend. There are prizes, fun stuff. Every
It's
store is so
always,
different.
I haven't been to it, but it's always sounds so amazing.
Yeah, there's a new bookstore as well this year in downtown that has been started by a couple of old hands in San Diego book selling. So that's very exciting as well to see more bookstores cropping
Right.
up.
I have been to it, and I will say that it is a great time.
One
Yeah.
of these years I will get there.
Yeah, maybe next year it won't be the same time as the LA Times Book
Right.
Festival.
I think that always happens, doesn't it?
It
It's
does.
usually a week apart, and this year it's
Oh, yeah. It's
Smack
Saturday.
dab.
Right, because
Bummer.
this is always on Indie Bookstore Day, right? Or yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a very, very, very good reason.
But we know you don't need us to have it be successful. So
And
Yeah,
Dave Eggers,
Don.
quite a catch.
yeah.
Don, the folks who started this new bookstore called Hey Books or Else, were asking us local booksellers for downtown bookstore stories, and immediately Warren Brock's came up. I mean, that's definitely the classic in the downtown San Diego bookstore realm. I never got to go there myself, but I've heard stories. Always so many stories in book selling. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you,
thank
reps. Thank
you.
you, fans. And see you next
See,
week.
indeed.
Bye.
Bye bye.